I've taken an entire year's worth of biology curriculum and compiled it into 40 video lectures for you. The video series covers every single NGSS life science standard, and it's available exclusively for you on teacherspayteachers.com. Link is in the description. So again, if you or somebody you know would benefit from this, spread the word.
Well, let's start with the Kalam argument, since you mentioned it. You said, when did we notice something that begins to exist? Well, we notice this every time. It's empirical knowledge, right?
Oh, give one example then.
Okay, let's say you make a painting, right? The painting didn't exist before you decided to make it.
Ooh,
correct?
Painting. Well, that's just a noun description of some atoms that have been smeared on some other atoms. So did those before the painting existed? You're gonna have to stop. Before the painting existed, did the atoms that make up the painting exist?
Yeah, maybe. But even
no, not maybe. The answer is yes, they did. So the painting is just a rearrangement of particles.
Yeah, even at, let's say, on fundamental particles level, there are atoms that merge and form different kind of atom. So
yeah, nuclear fusion, but that doesn't.
So that begins
particles
to
coming
exist.
together doesn't mean that. It's just a rearrangement of things that already exist. The matter and energy in the universe is conserved.
Okay, so you're saying because something is like the painting earlier I gave as an example is a collection of atoms that already existed before.
Yep.
The painting,
Everything's conserved.
The painting, however, did not exist in a true sense. The painting itself, right? You define the painting by the specific arrangement of colors and objects that I chose to insert in it.
The idea of what a painting is exists only in the minds of things like us. I wouldn't say that they are necessarily real in a. I mean, you could say they're real. I was going to say they're not exactly real in a physical sense, but they come from our brains, which are real. And so if I can just give I don't know, like a one-to-one correlation between concept of brain exists in the mind, which emerges from the brain, then it really exists, but we still have not, literally still all matter and energy are conserved. Now, if your argument is that when I have a thought is something non-physical, completely different from reality that exists, and by extension, I would assume continues existing even after the universe dies or something like that. I don't know exactly. Then you'd have an argument for things beginning to exist, but you'd have to be able to flush out what you mean by that. And I mean, if you want to try, you can go ahead.
It seems to me that you're just using mental gymnastics here.
No, I'm not being pedantic. It's literally the case that when a painting comes to, when somebody paints a painting, literally all matter and energy is still conserved. Now, again, if you have evidence or an argument for something other than those things existing, and you can describe what they are and somehow demonstrate that they really actually come into existence suddenly, that would be interesting. So, for example, like if I invent a new word, shlamma-lamma ding-dong zippity-pop. Okay, does that now exist?
Yeah.
Okay, what is it?
Does it exist? It doesn't matter that it's something unintelligible. It's something. You cannot say it's nothing.
If it's unintelligible, right? Then don't try to argue with me that it's real and it exists.
Wait.
Since when do we argue about the existence of unintelligible things?
You're changing the argument. You just gave an example of something that didn't exist and began to exist, like that word you said, right?
I asked you if it does.
Yeah, it does exist. You just said it.
Then what is it?
Denying reality.
That's completely. I'm fine with this, but you gotta tell me what it is.
You're fine with denying reality? Like
I'm fine with you claiming Shlamalama Ding Dong Zippity Bop, or whatever I said,
your
really exists,
position.
but you got to tell me what the hell it is.
It doesn't matter what it is. If something that has a property, right? Has letters or sounds or whatever you wanna call it, right? It has a property, therefore it does exist. Because something that doesn't exist doesn't
What are
have
the
any.
properties of Shlamalama Ding Dong Zippity Pop?
Right. One property is that it was instantiated 3 seconds ago.
That's not a property.
Okay, is this not true though?
It's true, but I wouldn't call that a property.
Okay, because you can claim something about an object. It means you could say it's a property of the
Existing
object.
is not a property. I think that was Kant that actually said existence is not a predicate. It doesn't tell you anything. It doesn't give you any information about something other than just claiming that it exists. So,
Yeah, but you
what
can
is? Tell me anything about Shlammalama Ding Dong Zippity Pop.
stop going with the conversation in this random directions, please. Let's
It's not
discuss.
random. I'm like literally hyper focused on one thing. I don't
It's
let
okay.
people
It's a
change the
word.
subject. So you are
Okay,
claiming that
okay, so
Shlammalama Ding Dong Zippity Pop really is a thing that really exists. So tell me anything about it.
yeah, I just said it came out of your mouth like 30 seconds ago. That's property. It has like a sound.
That is not a property.
Okay, so you're
This
saying
thing
that what you
is
just
over
said.
here. Is that a property of it?
Wait,
No.
hold on. Just because you cannot make sense of something, if you look at I don't know, like a picture, and you don't understand anything from it, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Means
It
just
certainly
that you
means that
don't
you have no.
understand.
You cannot present a case. We went over this earlier.
Not present
It's
a case. You're
100%
looking at it.
unintelligible. But trust me, bro, we're not doing that. That's just stupid.
Okay,
That's a
so
waste of time.
you're denying reality, really. But anyway, let's move on from the
No,
subject.
I'm
because
not.
we're
You
not conceding.
admitted that the thing you're going to try to argue for is completely unintelligible in every way,
Okay.
which means you can't even justify it.
I can justify it came out of your mind as a result of our conversation.
I have no idea what you said. You get to
It came
pick
out
whatever
of
word.
it came from you as a result of our conversation. You wanted to give me an example, whatever, something that maybe doesn't make sense, but claiming that it doesn't
That's
exist
not
is
a
a whole
property.
different thing.
I don't know if you're trying to do the property thing again, but like if
Okay,
this water bottle
as I
is over
said,
here and now it's over there, saying that the water bottle is over there is not a property of the water bottle.
okay, it's a way to describe the object, right? It's a truthful
No.
observation about the object, is it not? You
Oh,
did not say
in
that.
that if you say it that way, then yeah, that describes something about the not really about the object, but the object's relationship to other objects, which
Right,
again
right.
is not a
Okay.
property of the object.
I don't care about the fact that it has a certain property or not. We're discussing the existence of the object, right? So empirically, that thing you said exists, right? You said it exists. If you deny that you said it, if you deny that it exists, well, I'm not sure on what grounds can we have a conversation about reality if you deny empirical, simple knowledge. But anyway, let's continue. Right, you said right. So would you concede that everything that begins to exist has a cause from our empirical and intuitive observations?
No, I completely reject that because nobody's ever demonstrated anything begin to exist.
Okay, so that word you just said earlier, that didn't begin to exist, existed forever.
Right. So again, I made some sounds with my head hole and my throat flaps.
Right.
Sounds. So producing sounds doesn't mean something that did not used to exist in the universe began existing. Matter and energy is conserved. We went over this. If you want to tell me that
Yeah, I'm just-
Shlammalama Ding Dong Zippity Pop is something other than the sounds and the thoughts or whatever that come about through that, then you have to demonstrate what it is or anything like that. But
Okay.
you never did that, and you said it's unintelligible, so we can't do that.
Did the thoughts that led you to say that word exist before we had our conversation?
Did the thoughts? No. Do you have a way of demonstrating that thoughts are some sort of other, some sort of, I don't even know, some kind of exotic substance that science or nobody else knows about yet?
Yeah, it's called the hard problem of consciousness.
The hard problem of consciousness is the predicament that we really have no idea what this is. So did you solve the hard problem of consciousness?
No, I'm not saying I solved it. I said it's a subject that's in debate by philosophers. And
Okay, so we still don't have an example of something that begins to exist.
okay, that's because
You're just saying that perhaps thoughts and qualia are one of those things.
That's just because you deny the common definition of what it means for something to begin to exist, right? You say that a painting does not begin to exist, even though before I painted that, there were no arrangement of atoms, as you said it. There was no arrangement of atoms in that specific form. And after I painted it, the arrangement exists in that form.
Bingo.
Okay? So that arrangement began to exist, that arrangement.
You think that an arrangement of particles is something other than the particles themselves that begins to exist?
Yeah, an arrangement is something different, has different properties of the components.
Those properties are emergent of the components themselves, though. So again, there's nothing new under the sun here.
Yes, there is something new because those components were arranged in a different way before.
Then what's the new thing? The fact that now
new
the thing is
arrangement.
over here?
Yeah, the new arrangement is new. Something that didn't exist before. Do you agree?
No, this is so unbelievably stupid. Okay, watch this.
I agree,
Do you
I
see-
agree. You're
do you see-
denying
then why are
reality.
you making the argument if you think it's stupid?
I think it's stupid how you're desperately trying to defend a position that contradicts reality, like empirically. But anyways, let's move on from this, right? You don't.
Is it
agree
your
with that?
opinion that if I go over here, now that I am over here, my over here-ness is a new thing that begins to exist in the
Yeah,
universe?
your position.
No. Is that
Is
your
looking-
argument?
No, I'm just trying to see.
Then
how
why
far
did you
can
say
stretch
that that is your
reality.
argument? Why
You
did you
could
say
argue-
when
you
a
could argue
painting...
that- you could argue that also, but I'm just trying to gauge on how much you can stretch reality to fit your narrow view of it. Like you're denying.
Okay, so instead of
empirically-
arguing in bad faith, why don't you just tell me
Okay,
whatever
yeah,
it is
agree,
you
agree.
think?
Let's first then find out about how you think of things, right? Because we obviously disagree on some very basic human facts. So let's say this. What do you believe in? What is your view of reality?
That reality exists.
Okay, is reality independent of you?
Yeah.
Okay, can you prove that?
Can I prove it?
Yeah.
The best I can do is come up with tests about this reality, because if this reality does exist, that means it has its own properties. Would you agree?
Yeah, but I'm just
Okay,
saying.
so
prove
if it exists independent of me, then it would exist independent of other beings as well, but we're still experiencing this reality. So what we can do is come up with testable means for discovering or describing or simply just witnessing things in this universe, which would be us describing its properties. You don't even need science for that. We can just walk around and say, do you see the mosquito flying from left to right? Yes. Okay, well, we have this shared agreement that there is this thing We're calling it a mosquito.
But you said it's
Out
just some
out and
atoms.
around in there. So that is, we have a justified reason for thinking that the reality in front of me is something other than my own hallucination. Now, could you be a figment of my imagination too? I suppose you can't even prove that you're not.
Yeah, this is what I'm getting at. I'm trying to find out how you position yourself in this philosophical view of reality.
Yeah,
Because if you deny
philosophically,
that
I think that
anything,
a reality exists, but there's no solution to hard solipsism. Not even you have a solution to it.
obviously not.
Yeah. Okay. So
But
that's fine.
even so, like empirically, like you know that you're having thoughts, right? So if you proclaim things like physicalism, that goes against your immediate experience of reality, kind of. I mean, you have to believe that the world exists, that you are part of the world somehow, and then atoms in the brain form some conscious thoughts that lead you to interpret or have thoughts, right? So that's a pretty big jump from the hard solipsism to physicalism. So I'm wondering, how do you justify, just to see what kind of evidence you consider, I don't know, acceptable for a view of reality.
Anything that is independently verifiable, I would say that's probably the gold standard. The alternative is special revelation and trust me, bro, which is epistemologically useless.
Well, I wouldn't say so, because you see, this is the funny thing, that this solipsism begins with subjective experience and subject personal experience, right? You have no, if you would erase your memory, you would have no way of determining if reality is a thing, if you're dreaming, if you're imagining stuff, if your brain in a human body, or it's just an illusion, you're some kind of brain in some vacuum, or whatever the thing that can generate thoughts.
Sorry, I wouldn't even charitably call that an argument or a question or anything. I have no idea.
It wasn't an argument or a question. I'm just saying that it's ironic that you deny personal experience as a valid source of information, when in fact the only truth you can know is through personal experience. The fact that in Solips's view, not defending that view, by the way, but in this view, the only truth you actually know is that you exist, and that's
Completely
personal
false.
experience.
There are testable ways of going about testing. I actually already went over this. There are testable ways to go about, is your experience with reality analogous to mine? We went over how that is the case.
Let's
But if
assume
I
there is no
appeal, yeah,
other.
I'm literally
Yes,
still talking, but thank you.
sorry.
I mean, not thank you, but but if I appeal to special revelation, there is no shared experience that can possibly mediate what I'm saying toward you. So, for example, I can just claim that Spanky, the one true God, revealed to me several esoteric truths, and the reason I believe it is because it was revealed to me. This is epistemologically useless information. If I told you there's an afterlife and
But
Spanky's
it's
there,
still,
and in that afterlife it's nothing but river dancing, that is a completely useless claim.
yeah, I agree for someone else, but that doesn't mean the claim is not true, or that what you experience is not true. It
There's
doesn't
no
follow.
reason to think that it's true. That's the problem.
The problem is that you say that you experience reality, and then use some methods of verifying. Let's say you don't have anyone to verify with. What then? And how is that experience of reality superior to experiencing a godly revelation, let's say?
If I was the only person that existed, how would my thoughts about the reality in front of me be superior to somebody claiming that they received special revelation?
Yeah, you're experiencing reality through subjective perspective, and you don't know any truth except that you exist. So everything that you see around you is just conjecture. It's just deduction. You try to make sense of the world, but you wouldn't be able to challenge the appearance of a god to you with information you have in solipsism.
Okay, you fudged the bucket and told me way too many words to know, and now I have literally no clue what you're even trying to say at this point. So when I asked
Okay,
you
what I'm saying
earlier
is,
if I was the only person that existed, on what grounds would my beliefs about whatever I'm experiencing be more valid than if there were two people that existed and the other person said, wow, God just told me a special message in my brain? Is that your actual question?
no, that's the point, that you cannot make a claim that what that person experienced is true or not. You cannot discount it completely just because you don't perceive reality in the same
Their
way.
claim is useless because it can neither be confirmed nor denied.
Right.
It's useless.
Well, you could say that, but for that person, it has a value of truth. It either happened or it didn't happen.
That's great. How does one person prove their own ideas are
not
true or
saying-
false? The best method we've ever come up with for that is independent verification.
I'm not saying that person can prove this fact to someone else. I didn't say that. As I said, you cannot prove to me that your reality is real or that I'm not some AI, right? You cannot prove this, correct? But that doesn't mean it's true. The same way with that person having a revelation, just because he cannot prove it to someone else, doesn't mean it can be discounted as false. It doesn't follow from the premises.
I agreed with that so many times. What I've told you is that it's epistemologically useless.
Right. So if you adopt the position of solipsism, then
I don't adopt the position of solipsism.
okay. So what position do you have
About what?
about reality? Like what
That
is
there
the
is
nature?
a reality.
There is a reality, and what is the nature of this reality? Like how?
The laws of physics.
Okay, the laws of physics. Okay,
Yep.
can you tell me, are these laws something that are universal?
Yep.
Okay, are these laws something material?
In the sense that they describe a material reality, yes. In the sense that they exist independent of a material reality, no.
Okay, so basically they're immaterial and universal.
No.
In their true nature, they're okay. Let's do logic then. Right? Is logic immaterial?
Is logic immaterial? Logic doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. Then how
No.
can you make a logical argument right
Because
now?
that's the
You see
only
how
way
this
grammar works.
ridiculous. You see how this ridiculous sounds. You're trying to argue from logic that logic doesn't exist. This is unbelievable. Sorry, I'm sorry. I just cannot help myself. So using the laws of logic, you are postulating that the laws of logic do not exist.
That is the only possible way to construct a grammatical sentence. Yeah.
No, there's a difference.
It's not something
Grammatical
different
sentence-
than language and the way we think. It's not a separate thing.
It's a separate thing because you think logic is localized to the brain. Is that what you're claiming?
Not exactly.
Okay, so how
Could you give me a non-linguistic logical statement?
What does this have to do with what we're talking?
Well, it would prove that logic is something else other than the way language works, for example. Maybe it's not the best question, but I don't know. Nobody's ever been able to produce anything. So can you give any logical non-linguistic statements?
A logical that is not, that's gibberish. It doesn't make
Yeah,
any sense.
it is gibberish. So even conceptualizing logic existing independent of our thoughts and the way we think, which I would call that language, is completely meaningless.
But would you say that the law of non-contradiction is meaningless on a different planet?
The law of non-contradiction is nothing other than a description of reality. There is no law of non-contradiction that exists immaterially somewhere else that makes it the case that these two things are not the same thing. What actually happens is we observe these two things, we came up with a way to describe them, and we said that they are not the same thing as each other, or that this is not, if this exists, it can't not exist, for example.
It sounds to me that you're using logic to make this argumentation.
It sounds to me like I am using a physical material reality to justify the way I describe it, and the only possible way to do that is to use grammar, and the only possible way to use correct grammar is to make sure that it follows these logical steps. But the way we use grammar is arbitrary. In some languages, articles are modified in completely different ways. They literally don't have a way to do certain tenses in time, but the grammar works, the language works according to its own rules, which are made up, but are based on things that are really around us. So to say that this thing cannot exist and not exist at the same time is not because a law of logic exists out there that keeps existing when this thing is gone. It's because this thing really exists. It's just a very uninteresting, it's the very uninteresting observed fact that this thing is real.
The thing is, you're trying to argue using logic that logic does not exist, that logic is just some grammar, advanced grammar usage, which is just ridiculous. It's you can make a perfectly sounding grammar statement, and it doesn't subordinate to the rules of logic. It breaks the rules of logic.
Okay, so what is logic then?
Well, it seems to me that the laws of logic are something that exists.
Yeah, what are they? Rather than beg the question, tell me literally anything about them.
Yeah, they're a way to rationalize reality.
That's literally what I said.
Well, they're not.
You stole my argument.
No, that's not what you said. You said the grammar dictate the law of logic.
Okay, so if a universe did not exist, would laws of logic still exist?
If the universe, like our universe, like are you considering like a multiverse?
Instead of trying to be pedantic, why don't you just argue or answer the question?
If something doesn't exist, like if nothing exists, like obviously there's nothing you can talk about in regards to that nothing. Yeah, clap. That's funny.
There you go. You got the order of operations correct. You were putting logic before the universe, but now you understand that it works the other way around.
No, I'm not putting logic before the universe.
Yes. No, yeah, I know you're not. Well, you were, but now you aren't. There we go. We got you there.
When did I say that logic is before the universe? Please remind me.
You said that it grounds. Okay, did you say something to the effect of logic, the laws of logic ground reality?
Well, it certainly appears so, yeah. And
okay, so if a universe didn't exist, would the laws of logic still exist? I think they would have to if that's the case.
No, if nothing exists, then nothing exists.
Okay, there we go. So the laws of logic do not make the universe exist or anything like that. They are just post hoc descriptions of a universe that we exist in.
I didn't say that they make the universe exist. I said that.
Buddy, you're not saying anything. Look, this is really funny, and I would like to keep talking, but the 100-meter dash finals in the Olympics is on literally right now, and I have to go watch it because I'm a big fan of track and field.